Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Very lovely to be here. So first, a few warnings. I'm not one of those regular people that is out on the circuit delivering very polished presentations. The Trade Association Forum is run on a 1 FTE basis, just to manage expectations. But what we do is spend all of our time thinking about how do we promote the value and best practice of trade associations and all the things that we're going to do. So, let's see if I can make this work. There we go. So who is the Trade Association Forum? So yes, it is the Association of Associations, a bit meta. We are the Trade Association for Trade Associations. It's fine to have a little giggle about that. We're used to it. We were set up in the 1990s by Michael Heseltine when he was at then the DTI as a way to help associations to collaborate and share best practice. And all these years later, that's still basically what we're about today. And we are still backed by government, and we have departmental officials that sit on our board. So today we are 180 members, so it's 180 different trade associations, and we represent about 190,000 businesses. And obviously what we say is we are by trade associations for trade associations. So the rest of this presentation, there are about 1,000 trade associations across the UK, believe it or not, and they literally represent everything you could possibly imagine. Everything you could possibly imagine. But the most common question and inquiry we get is, and the most landed on page on our website, is how do we set up a new trade association? And so what I want to talk about is why we have trade associations. What is the value of trade associations? How do associations, which are essentially collaborations between businesses in same sectors, how do they deliver value to the economy, to each of them, to their sector, and also to society more broadly. And I'm not talking theoretically here. I'm going to give you loads and loads of examples of great things that different trade associations are doing to drive change, and hopefully spark a few ideas and things about what you can do and learn in this sector. So, first of all, and this is probably the primary reason why people come to us and ask, how do we set up a trade association? It is about how do we come together around a particular threat or opportunity or particular challenge that is facing a group of businesses and organisations in the economy. And some associations are so focused on being the voice of their sector that they put it into their actual logo. So I've pulled out here the example of the Tourism Alliance, who actually say Tourism Alliance, the voice of tourism. And I wanted also just to pull out Charge UK, so one of a new trade association set up in the last year to represent the charging infrastructure. And again, they have put it on the first page of their website, the voice of EV charging. This is one of the prime roles of associations. They speak on behalf of the sector to a whole range of different audiences. So primarily, they will have a focus on kind of quite often bringing the voice of the association into the public domain by working with the media. A lot of work they will be doing behind the scenes, lobbying policymakers and regulators, and we've probably got some of those people in the room with us today. And a big function of associations being the voice of their sector is around consumer campaigns. So you can pull out a couple. So I was talking to Tom Reynolds earlier. They did a Get Lavvy Savvy campaign, which was about educating consumers about how to... You were allowed to laugh at that one as well. How to educate consumers. And similarly, there's a Know What's What campaign, which was run by AMDEA, which is small domestic appliances, looking at how to explain to consumers about wattage. They are also very focused on building reputation and confidence of a sector, and sometimes they are also about how do you grow exports for a sector or go up against another sector. So that's why I pulled out Hydrogen UK. So Hydrogen UK was set up explicitly to be the voice of the hydrogen sector, basically because they have lost ground in terms of their role. They feel like their role is not fully recognised in the transition to net zero. So effective sector representation is one of the main reasons that associations collaborate and are incredibly successful. I could have pulled out a million different examples of ways in which associations represent their sectors effectively. Another really key way that associations deliver value is by driving and improving standards. And for some associations, this is the reason they establish themselves and set themselves up. For some, membership is conditional on reaching certain standards. So there will be mechanisms in place to make sure that only members that reach certain specifications, that sign up to certain codes of conduct or quality standards, are allowed to be members of a trade body. You have to be a little bit careful about competition law sometimes in setting these up. But broadly, I've pulled out some examples here of the scaffolders and the roofing contractors, who are both very clear that being a member of their association is a benchmark of quality and legitimacy. Many associations also manage arbitration and complaints, and I know that that's something that BiKBBI does for its members very successfully, so can help to manage the process of customer complaints and provide that independent arbiter. They are also really critical for technical conversations about industry regulations. And this is really important because our economy is dynamic and changing, and associations need to be right at the forefront of thinking about what change in regulations is coming down the line. And that isn't something that is on the front pages of the papers. This is technical regulations. So, for example, thinking about the British Coatings Federation, which is paint, and the Chemical Business Association, they will be involved on a very technical, granular detail, representing their members on how regulations are around chemicals. And this is more about how you provide value to your members. So and how does that support the driving up of standards? So we build all associations will do surveys. They will all have their kind of industry surveys that will develop benchmarks. So we do one at TAF, and I can tell you some key stats from our members because that are helpful to any trade association. So I can tell you, for example, that 80% of revenue, the average is 80% of revenue comes from member subscriptions. So trade associations generally derive 80% of their revenue from membership subscriptions, and I can only tell you that because we've done a survey and loads of associations have come together and have given that, and that helps them, you as associations, or if you've got business members, you can do similar things. Helps you to plan, look at what industry benchmarks, and most associations will do something similar around salary and benefits. So how much on average do we pay our starters? Do we pay our middle managers? And you can break that down by region and by size of organisation as well. And then the other way people use benchmarking and surveys is to get opinions. So it's for their lobbying campaigns. So it will be, what are the views of the sector and how do we then best represent those in the ways that we want to? So, for example, I was talking to someone from the CIPR last night, the Chartered Institute for Public Relations, and they're about to launch a survey on Wednesday. Hot news off the press. Hopefully journalists aren't going to report this before it comes out somewhere, probably nowhere. That they've done the survey of the lobbying industry, which will tell them that they are desperate for further regulation of the lobbying industry as a way to restore public trust in politics. So they will use that to then make the case that there should be some really tough measures for reform of the current lobbying regulation, which is considered weak. So there's some examples of how do you develop industry best practice. The mainstay of associations and collaborations is about events and networks. So there are conferences, awards, trade shows, webinars, seminars, breakfast, dinners, lunches, brunches, you name it, there's an event for it. Every association delivers events. And it's not because everybody loves delivering events, it's because it's about the community that you build. It's about being part of a sector of an industry. It's about human connections and relationships. And it's been really challenged post-COVID. Loads of associations are struggling to build that community. So we've seen a huge shift to online, trying to develop online communities. Be really interested to know what people think in terms of how successful they are. Our general feedback is it's really challenging to build online communities, and that people really want to go back in the room, but then they don't turn up. That seems to be the general trend, is everyone likes the idea of getting back in the room and networking, but not enough to actually go along to the event. So there's lots of challenges with that, not least the kind of business models that associations are relying on. So my plea to you all, if you say you're going to go to an association event, definitely do go. You'll enjoy it at the end, I promise. So that building of community is always the thing that people say to us when we ask, and I'm sure this is the same for other associations, what is the main reason you joined? A lot of, 50% of people say to meet other people in the sector, to network, to learn from each other, and that's a huge that's a huge benefit. I've give recommendations and advice here, and that's because a lot of associations will have communities that have trusted suppliers or people that they know are industry specific that they can recommend to their members. And then there is also a whole plethora of magazines, publications, newsletters, ways of keeping the industry up to date, engaged and informed with each other. And these provide huge benefit to retaining members in the sector, keeping the sector at the keeping everybody up to date with what's going on. There are just loads and loads of value that members derive from that. I've put an example here of the ADS, because you may or may not know that the ADS set up the Farnborough International Air Show. It was an event that has basically now funds the association. So they set up this massive event to bring all of their members together, and it's taken on a life of its own, and it's now a 15 million plus, it says in my notes, revenue association. The other thing that is really important and kind of a real means of value of collaborating is about the provision of services. So this takes a number of different forms. I've put two different ones on the example slide here. One, most of you will know, the FSB costs 200 quid to be a member for any business, small business, and you get that money back just by savings on your insurance, because they group buy insurance at such a low cost that you couldn't negotiate it yourself, and they can only do that because they have that power of able to bring that market to that supplier, and that's a really common thing, procuring commonly good services, insurance and legal, as well as products. And then the other one, the example, is the NAPIT insurance, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is the National Association of Professional Inspectors and Testers, and they have a bespoke sector insurance product, which has been designed specifically for the sector, and it's the reason that a lot of people join that trade association. And I just wanted to touch on training and accreditation and skills. I know this is an area that you covered off this morning. This is a massive, in terms of being able to grow your businesses and develop the sector and what the sector needs. Trade associations have a huge role to play in developing training courses, apprenticeship programs, and also accreditation programs. So there's loads of examples. I mean, almost all associations will have some training and development, both for attracting the future workforce, so apprenticeships, job fairs, really innovative ways to get young people involved. Also thinking about how do you support the continuing professional development of your members. So I've used the example here of the ASPF, which is Fire Protection, Association of Specialist Fire Protection. So post-Grenfell, all of the regulations regarding how fire protection changed. So they had to basically do all of their training programs and upskill the whole sector to stay ahead of those regulations. And that's happening on all sorts of things all the time. And the other example I've put in here is the Road Haulage Association, who have got, and I only do this because some of my colleagues went and had a go at this last week, and they have a simulation truck. If you ever want to go and know what it's like to drive a massive truck, you can go to their offices in Peterborough, and they have it sitting outside, and they take it around the country. And that is used as, they've all come together to develop a simulator programme that all of their members can use to train new staff on. So they really invested in it, and it's really, I won't say it's good fun because I think my colleague crashed, but it was definitely, it does actually support the training of new drivers, and they have a massive skills issue and shortage of drivers, as you probably know. So that's the training and accreditation. And I think BiKBBI does a brilliant scheme as well, so I was told at lunch, which I would love to find out more about, actually, because it looks like a really excellent way of supporting businesses to get the skills in the sector that they need for the future. I wanted just to mention this because this is like an emerging offer and an emerging value of collaboration that I thought that you would be particularly interested in. So I don't know if you've heard the term data pooling or data pooling. I'm not looking, I've got one nod. There's a few nods. Essentially, it's the idea that if you all share data from as everything's online now, so you know what products you're using. If you can share the data on the products that you're using and across the sector, then you get really interesting market analysis back. And that's what AMDIA are doing. I think I mentioned them earlier. They are the Association of Manufacturers of Domestic Appliances, so small kettles, toasters, that kind of thing. And they've implemented a data pooling system for their members, which is giving them regular intelligence on what products are the ones that are fastest selling in their sector. So really useful market information. It's all anonymous and secure, and there's a lot of thought that's gone into it. And loads of associations that we talk to are really thinking about, well, how can I offer something that like that to my members? Now everybody's basically systems are online. There must be ways where we can get people to talk, get the systems talk to each other and get good data and information back. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about how collectively, how important it is that associations and working collaboratively, you can respond to what are major challenges. So, supporting the transition to net zero is a huge challenge for our economy that has to be done on a sector by sector basis. And there are incredible amounts of work going on across the sector to look at, at very detailed level, how do you drive, how do you support sectors to reduce their carbon emissions and help the UK to meet its net zero targets. There are also really great examples of a sector's driving diversity, sometimes to meet a skills challenge, sometimes just because they want to diversify their workforce for other reasons. I've put Renewables UK here. They did something really simple, which I thought was brilliant, which was they developed something called a switch list. And this was an very simple industry list of diverse speakers who could be used to speak at events rather than go for your, traditional, whoever the traditional would be in the renewable sector. So it was an idea of how do we get more diverse voices into the sector? How do we represent more people to encourage and support our workforce? And there are lots of other examples. We're seeing lots of diversity charters. The British Beer and Pub Association did a really good campaign last year where they developed toolkits for their members to look at how to drive diversity. And I also just wanted to mention the Independent Garage Association. They won a TAF award for their work during COVID. So it's a really small association in a very relatively niche sector, independent garages across the UK. What they did to support their members during COVID was absolutely incredible. They turned their whole organisation into a crisis response for independent garages. They negotiated specific they got the government basically to allow them to open. So rather than close like other businesses, so they basically said they asked it a special case successfully. This is a very tiny, small association, and they also put all of their information about COVID online and open for anybody that wasn't even a member. And actually, that drove up membership and loyalty towards the association, and really demonstrated their value. So there's loads of ways that when the sector's under pressure or being challenged, your associations and collaborating to get the best outcome from this for the sector is just really, really important. There we go. And now I'm going to play a 2-minute little film that's going to summarise all that much more eloquently than I did.
Trade associations are vital to the UK economy. Bringing together businesses within specific industry sectors, trade associations build industry consensus and drive up industry standards. In their respective fields, associations are the industry leaders, the technical experts, and the fearless champions of their sector. By finding the balance between effective regulation and encouraging enterprise, associations ensure consumer protection without stifling innovations. They make policy work for everyone, and their impact on the economy is significant. Associations are developing the workforce of the future, helping the young people of today develop into the professionals of tomorrow. Older workers, with the help of associations, are being reskilled and retrained to keep industry at pace with the changing economy. Overall, associations are supporting businesses to scale up, facing the challenges of the day head-on and helping grow our economy. And the effect of this is global. Associations promote the UK as a place of business, securing investment in the UK, as well as helping UK businesses find new markets abroad. Associations are leading social change too, helping whole sectors to be more sustainable and putting them on a path to net zero, bringing businesses together to embrace diversity and inclusion, and helping to create responsible businesses, building the society of the future. The Trade Association Forum is the association of associations. We help facilitate this cooperation between associations, sharing best practice across different sectors and solving common challenges. The networking opportunities we provide bring together the key voices of industry, and together we celebrate our successes and shout about the value of associations. We champion the people in associations, helping them to develop skills, share experiences, and build networks. We are the Association of Associations. Visit our website to find the association for your sector and join the TAF community.
Thank you very much for watching that. And it's been lovely to come and talk to you, and I'm really happy to take any questions if there's anybody that has any burning association questions. No? Oh, do you want to ask one, Tom?
Yeah, just any perception on how government relies on trade associations for their policy making?
I mean, government couldn't make policy without associations. It would literally be making policy in a vacuum. We have loads of examples of where the government is planning to put in place certain regulations. The associations think that's not going to work for our members, or it's not going to work on the ground, or I can see potential challenges and issues with that. And then they go and work it out together. And it would be very difficult, I think, if you were just a group of civil servants who aren't working every day in a particular sector to really understand the impact that something might have. And quite often this is not like big lobbying that you would see sort of in the papers. This is really the detailed stuff that actually makes policy and regulation work on the ground. So yeah, really, really important. And hopefully, if there's civil servants in the room, they would actually agree with me and acknowledge the role that associations play. Very undervalued, I think associations are. Anyone else, or I can hand you over to your next speaker? No? Please do speak to me afterwards if there's anything that I can help you with. Thank you very much indeed.